From Milford to LA, to Texas to Arkansas, no one could stop John Romulus Brinkley's empire. He owned the radio. He owned the goat gland market. He owned the people's trust and love. He owned hospitals. He owned mansions, boats, and a literal legion of cars. The top charlatan of the age was about to be turned upside down because in comes his arch-nemesis. In comes the hero of the story.
I didn't see you there.
It all started early this morning.
From hunting ghosts to Bigfoot, UFOs, cryptids, true crime, paranormal, and more.
I've always wanted to see a UFO.
Oh, I was researching for your entertainment.
That's Bigfoot, Scat.
He basically wrote the book on Monarch.
We aren't really comedians.
What if Buddha did cocaine?
The Addams Family on meth.
This is the Black Cat Report. See you on the other side.
Good evening, morning, afternoon, night, whenever you're listening to this, and welcome to the Black Cat Report and episode 126. I am Joey, and with me is Gilly Bobby Brown, Gildoff, Gilliam Shatner, Gilda Ray, Gilliam Wallace, and maybe his best name, Gil.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for such a resounding introduction.
Yeah, it took me a while to actually. It took me longer to make up those names than everything else. Honestly, I was trying to sit there. It took me longer to make up those names.
The
than
script
write
has
this
been done
script.
weeks. For
Yeah.
weeks, the script's been done. You were like, Gilles de Rais? No, Gil de Rais. Yes, that's it.
Yes, and if you don't know who Gil de Rais is, he was a medieval child murderer. So there you go. If you did not know. Well, we are excited to get to the conclusion and wrap up this series. I mean, I am really tired of learning about goat balls and the surgeries. It is absorbing into my brain at the moment, and I don't think I want that. I do love the other parts of this, though. But if you knew how much goat testicle information I have waded through to get to this knowledge brain, this goat brain, so to speak, to get these episodes written, you'd think there was something wrong with me. And now, in fact, there is. But we'll put that aside. We'll wade through that. Before we grab our shovel and dig ourselves out of this pit, we're going to remind you of some very, 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 very important dates coming up for us. First, we have Beer, Booze, and Boogeyman live on April 5th at 7:30. Gil, do you want to explain how people can get involved with that?
Yes, so super fucking easy. First off, all you have to remember, ghost.beer, ghost.beer. You go to ghost.beer, you'll find links to everything, including how to submit your own stories. This month, or this coming month's episode, is going to be about paranormal games and or the best pranks you've ever pulled. They don't have to be paranormal. Just what is the best prank you've ever done? Did you ever do something so nefarious, so mischievous? Did you ever embody yourself as such a ne'er-do-well that you were fired from multiple jobs, even though you were unemployed the whole time? We want to hear about it, okay? So
We do.
go to ghost.beer. There's like 40 different ways to submit. You can type out and fill out a form. You can send us an email. You can share a Google Doc with us. You can click and record a live voice recording as long as you want, and we will play it on air. Or if you're really feeling goat ballsy, you can call in live.
We know
At the time of our episode, which is 7:30, April 5th, Saturday, April 5th.
Eastern
You
time.
can call in live to the show, and we'll all chat with you. We'll all have a good laugh, and, hey, maybe you can scare the shit out of us. As a little side note, Joey's very easy to scare, so target him.
You could. Yeah, it's very easy. I want to tell you what scares me the most. It's giving our Patreon just a little follow because it scares me. I don't know why, but I love it. I love to boom, boom. You hear
Horrifying.
this like thing, yeah. but it's amazing. And you can scare me because it's free. You'll join, we give you a nice little free upgrade to our paid tier, and you'll get some cool perks like the Cup of Joey that will be coming out on April 7th at 10 a.m. We do a lot of our communication on Patreon as well. So come join us and give us a little follow, sub, dom, like, comment wherever you are.
A little follow, sub, dom. A little BDSM. We love it, you know.
Hey, you know what? We love everything. That's what we do here in Black Cat Report.
True.
We're
easy and sleazy.
Mm-hmm. That's what they call us. It's not the dynamic duo anymore. It's easy and sleazy.
Easy and sleazy. Yes.
Well, last week we had a wonderful rollicking time getting into John Brinkley, and now we're gonna continue. But we're gonna start off with just kind of catching you up with where we were. We left off with Brinkley having lost his medical license by the Kansas State Board of Medicine, as well as losing his broadcasting license for his radio station in Milford, all the while still blasting out messages, talk, and music just over the border in Mexico. Life handed him lemons, and he peed in a cup and sold it as lemonade. He had been taking all that hard-earned money, and now he was starting to spend it, buying his first mansion in Del Rio, Texas, and traveling the world, this time just for fun. He was about to meet his arch-nemesis face-to-face for the first time, and so are we. And before you get this far, I hope you gotten this far, hope you've listened to the first 2 episodes, because a lot of what I'm bringing up into this episode was actually talked about in the previous episodes in this series. Let's meet him. Morris Fishbine, the actual physician, the actual doctor who started out with the American Medical Association, or the AMA, in 1913 as an assistant. And eventually, he succeeded in 1924 to the editor of the JMA, or the Journal for the American Medical Association. So basically, they would write a journal, send it out, and that was kind of how they got all the stuff out. Basically saying, these people are quacks, these don't follow these medical things, don't go after these because they're bad for you. They were literally doing good work at this time because there were so many quacks out there that were trying to sell nothing.
They were cleaning up the riffraff.
Cleaning up the riffraff. Yep. Well, described by his friends as a tireless worker, and he would also keep a punishing pace. Sound like anyone we know. He worked so hard, he would have what we called nervous breakdowns along the way. He wouldn't go to the doctor either. Yeah. To see what was wrong with him, because why not?
He didn't trust the doctor anyways.
Yeah, he didn't trust the quacks anyways, exactly. Well, instead, he just took a cacophony of pills that he kept in his cupboard to keep all of this in check, just like we do now. So he's more like the medical times nowadays.
Pretty futuristic.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was described by another doctor looking on it from the future that most likely his nervous breakdowns were caused by an acute sycophy or loss of consciousness because of a shortage of oxygen to the brain. So this is pretty much to say that most of his general and work and lifestyle was just like John Brinkley.
Yeah. Perfect antithesis.
Very much. Well, Fishbine had some crazy credits too, and I think you're going to love these, Gil, because these are awesome. Well, he advised both on the defense and the prosecution in the Leopold and Loeb trial, which was a murder trial in the 1920s of a young boy, and he basically gave lawyerly advice to both sides. He also, and this kind of like says a lot about his personality, he helped take a family to trial, basically took a Christian Science doctor who withheld insulin from a diabetic 6-year-old boy, and the boy died. So the Christian Science doctor was like, you can't, used religion against the family. Couldn't give them any, didn't give them any didn't give them any insulin, and the kid died. So he took that guy to trial.
Gotcha. All things that you can get away with now. Yeah.
And apparently get away with then, because unfortunately he lost the trial and the healer got away with murder because of his religious beliefs at the time. He hung out with poet Carl Sandburg, and he would go to dinner and hang out with him all the time. He actually was one of the people that talked Sandburg into putting his I think he had like he was writing like small articles in like the paper, and he was like, hey, you should make a book out of that. And he told him that, and Carl Sandburg made a book and got a lot more famous from it. So he was kind of like in the background of these little things. He was a friend
awesome.
to Eugene V. Debs.
Damn. Okay. Now we're punching heavy over here. Yeah.
He visited him in the sanitarium that he was staying in after all of his jail stints, because Eugene V. Debs was like, after all the jail stints and all the stuff happening, he just like kind of went a little off the rocker because he just had so much stuff happen to him. So Fishbine actually went to visit him and try to convince him to leave the sanitarium instead of stay there and try these like radical surgeries that obviously this sanitarium had quacks in, was like shocking him to death and doing these crazy stuff. But he thought it was better than
the electric rat lobotomy. Okay, so what we did, we got the rat from Chuck E. Cheese, and what it's going to do is give you a lobotomy through your big foot. It's going to open up the big toe on your foot and just shove in a piece of pizza until it goes out through your ass, in through your mouth, and up into your brain. At that point, we're just going to scrape off the front. It's going to scrape off the front. And at this point, and this is very critical here, we're going to insert goat balls. This is one of the latest trends. It's one of the newest things we just heard about.
Gotta do it. Yeah. That was called the Chuck E. Cheese lobotomy, I believe, back in the day. Founded by the founder of Chuck E. Cheese.
Nobody remembers his name.
Nope.
Lost to time.
He never was able to get Eugene V. Debs to convince him to basically get out of this sanitarium and help him. It was very sad, and he tried his best, and he was basically like, look at all the quacks out here. Like they're everywhere. You can see them. But Eugene V. Debs actually believed in all this stuff that they were doing and was like, it's going to help me. The book went into this whole like I think we had talked about it. Remember the law that says like people that are like super smart will believe in anything outside of their field? And you said you were going to post it up on your
the Dunning-Kruger effect.
The Dunning-Kruger effect.
That's what
he said, because Eugene V. Debs was so smart. But he believed in all the quackery because he was like, oh, they're smart. They must know what they're, it was a fun little, fun little mouse hole that we went down. This is all to say that he never sat still. While he was playing golf, in between strokes, he would play gin rummy. So he just couldn't stop. Like, he just couldn't stop. He was just continuously going. He was always working on something, just like Brinkley. His friends called him a rare individual because when he set his mind onto something, he would not take it off until he achieved his goal. And that would not bode too well for our goat testicle Dr. Quack friend, Dr. John Romulus Brinkley. And I do want to say, I keep calling him Romulus because that actually is his real name. John Romulus Brinkley. He changed it to John Richard Brinkley later, and there was some weird thing about why he changed it when he was younger, and it just kind of felt like he wanted to sound maybe more like American instead of like Romulus, which is kind of, I don't know, weird. But yeah,
I don't know, but that's a fucking awesome middle name.
I love Romulus.
As somebody who legally doesn't have a middle name, I would gladly take on the middle name Romulus. That's such like a powerful, like astral name. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like it.
Romulus. You should be a wizard.
Romulus,
that kind of name,
or a wizard, or a Romulan, I guess, from Star Trek. Nerd alert. Right. Well, now that we've introduced Dr. Fishbine, we're going to drop ourselves right back into where we left off last week in August of 1937. Dr. Fishbine and his family had boarded the ship, the Queen Mary, as well as John Brinkley with his family and his son's teacher. They boarded the ship together, yes. And I am going to correct something from last episode. They are actually right now on board one of the most famous ships called the Normandy. And this one was traveling back from Europe to the United States. I wanted to correct that because they had boarded the same ship going to Europe. They didn't meet on that ship. They met coming back on the Normandy. So just wanted to make sure all my facts are in place.
Okay.
They boarded the ship with John Brinkley, his family, and his son's teacher. And, well, it would happen that there were a few chance meetings between the families. One day on the ship, in the public kids' playroom, Fishbine's and Brinkley's sons would meet. They met while playing with some toys in the public kids' playroom for the more wealthy kids, basically. the ones that had the money. Well,
yeah.
They asked each other what their dads did, and both said they were doctors. But Brinkley's son said, the other doctors don't like my dad very much.
That understatement. Yeah.
Understatement. Well, what's funny is later that day, Fishbine's son asked his dad, basically said that I met this kid. He said his dad's not likes very much. Is there anything we can do about that? And I imagine this Fishbine had a little smile on his face and then just went right back to working on his papers and was just like,
Jake's after his old man. Denied. Just like stamping his medical license.
Exactly. Well, this wasn't the only meet between their groups before they would meet in person. Brinkley's son's teacher, who was in his 20s, like we said last episode, and Morris Fishbine's daughter also met and starting having a bit of a little whirlwind romance. They started by playing ping pong together and then started having
I bet they did.
A few late nights after that. And they were, courting each other a little bit. But that all stopped when Brinkley's son's teacher...
And he did fine.
Yeah. That all stopped when Brinkley's son's teacher asked, do you know who my boss is? When they had been chatting about their work. She did. And they didn't see much of each other after that. He kind of just was like, yeah, like, ooh, that's not good.
Yeah. I feel bad for the kids.
I know.
Sounds
they're
like
just
they were
like,
having fun.
Yeah, we can't. Yeah, we can't. I'm sorry. This is just not going to be good. Well, on one of the days at sea, and I really think this sets up both their personalities very well. Morris Fishbine was sitting by the pool in a lounge chair reading a book in the sun. John Brinkley approached him because he noticed him across the deck, and he stopped a few feet away from him, staring at him, right? Staring. Morris Fishbine looked up at him, not surprisingly, just like noticingly, just like noticing there, blinked at him. Yeah. And then looked right back at his book. Did not say a single word. Pissed Brinkley off. So Brinkley he stepped a couple steps closer. But inside Brinkley, for one of the first times in his life, he couldn't bring up a word. He couldn't say a word. He was so mad. And he was just like, and then he kind of like shifted. And, just to kind of be like, Fishbine, look at me. Yeah. And still, Fishbine, nope. Looking at his book. Looking in the sun. Staying in the sun, looking at his book. Not even looking up.
He was just reading the information on the publisher of the book, too. It wasn't even like an actual meaty part.
Yeah, it was just a pamphlet. Yeah.
1923. Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. With an almost catty 16-year-old, Brinkley stormed off. He just stormed off, like stomping like a little 16-year-old kid running away.
I love it.
Yeah.
Damn.
And I feel like that, like,
heady shit.
It hit the nail on the head for both of their personalities that will remain for the rest of the story.
This is like Mean Girls on a cruise. Like this is so
what
good.
I thought too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this was their first meeting. The next ones would be in court. And as soon as Fishbine stepped off the boat, he said to himself, I am going to destroy this charlatan. It gave him some vigor to be like, you know what? I kind of forgot about him for a minute. I'm going right back to wrecking his life.
These days, for like the Fishman over here,
Fishbine.
yeah, Fishbinder, you know, like they just become mass shooters. They don't stick with the motivation. You know what I'm saying? Like this guy sounds fucking crazy. Like he literally sounds fucking crazy.
He's a bit,
because like if you got that much motivation, you're pumping shit that hard, and you're having to take pills and I'm sure he wasn't getting paid well. I'm positive he wasn't getting paid well. He was just kind of like he was probably like higher middle
really,
management, if that makes sense. You know?
Well, I mean, he was
like,
the editor of the paper, so he kind of ran it. But he
the editor
like,
of the medical paper where they
wasn't Brinkley.
They were actively basically character assassinating 90% of their subscribers.
100%.
And he was the editor of
100%.
that paper.
Yep.
So like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I would
don't
say
know.
he was probably middle class. I would probably say he's middle class.
Oh yeah, no, I mean he's on this cruise and shit.
Earlier.
He's doing all right. No,
yeah,
he's on this cruise and his kids are hanging out in the same room as Brinkley's kids. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? They're on the same level of cruise. They're walking across the same decks. Mm-hmm. You know, so like he was doing okay, but I never heard of Brinkley having to take pills because he was working so hard his brain was running out of oxygen. You know what I'm saying?
Nope.
Like one of them was working harder than the other.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Just
well,
saying.
What's funny is like Brinkley's main focus was this guy, you know, and like one of the biggest things, but Fishbine's main focus was this guy and 40 other people, you know. This guy was his biggest focus, obviously, because how big Brinkley was, but it was kind of like kind of trying to judge, like this guy is a judge in a, you know, in 17 cases while the defendant's in just this one case, you know. It's kind of how I'm.
Fishbinder was Elliot Ness and Brinkley was Al Capone. This is what's happening right now.
Sure. Yes.
That makes sense.
Makes total sense to me.
It makes sense.
I have no idea what you're talking about. But we are going to start with the first interference in Brinkley's life and where Fishbine had started setting his sights on Brinkley. And I want to say before we go into this, we're just going to like go through these past episodes of little like roadblocks that were in Brinkley's life and who was behind them, because Morris Fishbine was right there pressing that button. Let's step back in the Wayback Machine and go to Dr. Brinkley's first move. His move out to Los Angeles to build a hospital and operate on the editor for the LA newspaper in the spring of 1922. Morris Fishbine repeatedly wrote articles and sent articles to the California Medical Board exposing Brinkley's fake license, and that's why they canceled his license and stopped his hospital from being built. So if you remember from the first episode, Brinkley had moved out to LA. He got an invitation, and he was like, all right, cool. He was operating on everybody. He made so much money. They were like, okay, let's build you a hospital out here. You know, they gave him a provisionary license. They're like, you can keep operating on people and we're going to get you that long-term license. When Fishbine had heard of that, he started peppering them with emails, emails of the foreign day, the back in the day. He was handing them, you know, physical hand papers, hand mail, giving them to him. He was basically trying to expose Brinkley as a fake.
Damn it. The amount of times you insert the word hand in front of any physical object. You're just like, he was reading physical books. He was reading handbooks.
Handbooks, which is an actual word, a handbook on how to build things. It happens.
Hand papers, handbooks.
Hand paper. They're things that go in your hand. Physical.
I went to a
copies.
live hand show last night where people were playing music. It's just...
No, that just makes it. I'm not even going to go into where that sounds like it's going.
Back to Fishbinder.
Back to Fishbinder. So he got them to get rid of the license. He stopped the hospital from being built in LA. He was right behind that. And at this moment, Brinkley didn't know that Fishbine was doing these things. He thought somebody from the AMA maybe was sending stuff to people, but he didn't know that Fishbine was doing this. So he was kind of like a little bit in the dark. And so he went back to Milford, started booming his business there. Well, Fishbine's next move was during 1925, as Brinkley had just gotten his medical diploma from, if you remember, the University of Pavia in Italy, after Brinkley had showered them with a banquet and gifts of cash. Fishbine again peppered the Italian government with facts, papers, anything you could want to know about Brinkley, how he was a charlatan, his surgeries didn't work. He even sent them basically reviews about the surgeries from his patients. And this is where we get into a cool, weird little bit of history. Because Benito Mussolini himself, then the dictator, personally revoked the honorary degree from Pavia, Italy. Fishbine was talking directly to Benito Mussolini to get him to get rid of this honorary degree.
Damn, I was really hoping that like Mussolini had goat balls before he died.
No. That would be
That would have been
though.
so good. So good.
Yeah. But he had that kind of clout. And which is weird because he's still like he had this big clout, right? But he didn't. He was kind of like hated by a lot of people, and he could get to people that were in high degree of like political power at this time, but still was not as known. Yeah. Well,
do you know how bad you have to be to get Benito motherfucking Mussolini to revoke your medical license?
It was pretty damn bad.
Like that's pretty bro.
That's awful. He did terrible things.
What the fuck?
I only imagine Benito Mussolini sitting next to the doctors in Kansas while he's performing the goat testicle surgery, and Benito's just like, ugh, this is awful. You gonna pass me some of them goat balls? I'm getting a little hungry.
It's just like I'm just saying at this time, I have a feeling like Mussolini was like, yes, Mr. Mengele, Mr. Joseph Mengele, do you mind revoking that guy's medical license?
Yeah, I don't think he's doing very good.
That guy's crazy.
Things. Yeah, that guy's crazy. Mengele's like, oh yeah, he's crazy. Like just awful. Like he's just like awful. He's like, dude, that dude's not good. I mean, I thought I was
to pick
crazy.
up a shipment of twins. Yeah, get rid of that license.
Yeah. I thought I was crazy.
Fucking Christ.
Mm-hmm.
How could we ever get rid of the Godfather?
You know what's funny? They actually didn't like Brinkley's experiments. They never really liked or thought of anything high of his experiments, which is kind of funny.
The goats weren't Aryan. They were Aryan.
Brinkley was, though. Well,
truth.
Brinkley would still use that degree for the rest of his life, but he could not claim it to medical boards. Fishbine's next aim would be in the spring of 1930. As I said, we're going to be doing some jumping of times because we're just popping in where Fishbine jumped into his life, because Fishbine is literally going back and forth to other people as he's focusing.
Pond to pond. Yeah.
This was him. He lobbied the Kansas Medical Board with ammunition to put Brinkley's medical license in question. So Fishbine basically dug up the past clients from the Brinkley Jones Hospital, which is what the Milford, Kansas hospital was called, searching through death certificates, medical complaints, and such. He found 42 death certificates that had John R. Brinkley's name signed at the bottom. 42.
Damn.
Yeah, in the few years that he had been watching over him. The causes of death were listed as infection or fever, some random thing that was kind of part of the surgery, but not enough to call him at fault for it,
90% of them died due to ball-related injury.
Exactly, but not enough to be like he's the exact
Provably.
cause. Yeah, provably.
Kind of like in the way that you can't prove cigarettes cause cancer. Kind of
Not
in that
100%.
same kind of way. Yeah.
But yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's
100%
overwhelming.
They do.
Yeah. Well, with these
Yeah.
certificates and the scorching article in the Kansas newspaper that Fishbine had supplied the information for, the Kansas Medical Board went to Brinkley's goat nut operation and 2 days later canceled his medical license in the state. Now, Brinkley hadn't been taking all of this lying down. He was, of course, using the radio to badmouth the AMA and all its musings, but that's not all he was doing. He put out ads in the newspapers and even granted an interview to the same Kansas newspaper that wrote that scathing article. He was like, all right, you want to talk to me? Let's go. He told them, and I quote, "Do I look like I'm worrying? I'm not worrying. The American Medical Association has been fighting me for 10 years, and I've licked them every time."
Damn.
In the newspaper. He was like, no, you can't. Ain't getting on me. He was
This
smug.
is just straight up like a diss track that's coming out.
Yeah, they're dissing each other. They're going back and forth.
Damn.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. He had good reason to be smug. We'll get into this a little bit, but we'll get into some of this other stuff in a little bit, rather. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Brinkley was personally hiring goon squads to beat up former clients who had run their mouths a little too much about their bad experiences with him, and to beat up the journalists who were writing bad articles about him.
I love this guy. Honestly,
Yeah.
I might get a full chest tattoo of Brinkley.
Mm-hmm. Oh, hold up on that one before we'll get into it later. Why you probably shouldn't. Well, he hired people from the Pinkerton agency, the same Pinkerton agency that helped Frank Oldfield bring down the Society Banana. Yeah, they came.
They're
back.
douchebags. They're douchebags. Yep. Look, if anybody's ever heard the Pinkertons and been like, "I love them," no, go fuck yourself. The Pinkertons are hard. They are Z, or they are what's the fucking Andrew Prince? My God. And they're mercenaries. That's what I'm trying to say. They were mercenaries within the quote-unquote Wild West of the United States. This was in their death throes. But, like, they were fucking mercenaries. They're heartless assholes. Pirates, 100% had more morals than these motherfuckers do.
Oh, yeah. Well, pirates almost invented democracy, so there you go.
Basically, yeah. Pirates literally were like, I don't care what race or gender you are. Do you make the most sense? Are you a good person? Great. How about healthcare and retirement?
Yeah, exactly. Like
literally.
we talked about in our old ones. Yeah, like we talked about in our old episodes, our old pirate episodes.
Pirates, out of the shit. I mean, at the time when they were going against countries who were colonizing, massacring, genociding people, they were going against those governments. Yeah. Pirates weren't that bad. That's all I'm going to say.
Exactly. You at least had a choice.
In context, they were at least equal with their massacres. I respect that.
100%. Well, there was so much meddling by Fishbine that I really can't go into everything here, because he's in the background of all these little things that like are going to bring about the downfall of Brinkley. Well, in that same year of 1930 and into 1932, Brinkley was running for Kansas State governor, like we had talked about before in the second episode. Mm-hmm. Both those years, Fishbine had a hand in helping Brinkley lose the election. Fishbine himself gave money. Literally, Fishbine himself gave money to Brinkley's first wife, Sarah Wyke, to go around Kansas right behind John Brinkley and besmirch his name, speaking at engagements and giving quotes to newspapers on how bad of a person John Brinkley was.
Whoa.
Yeah, she almost wrote a book about how bad he was and like everything that was going on. She was quoted as she was talking about it too, that she was like, we don't have like anything. Like she was hurting. She was in really bad shape because he had just left her. Remember, he just left her and the kids in Chicago, and so they had 2 kids at the time when he left because they had just lost the other one. And so she's like, hey, like I need help, and she was like, hey, can you help us out? Like it's alimony in a lot of ways. And so she was like, can you help us with the cars? And we need somewhere to get around. And he basically just said, get out of my face. I don't want to talk to you ever again. And so she was following around at his speaking engagements just right the next day in that town, talking and being like, he's a terrible person. He's the worst. Don't ever trust him.
She also, to back up Brinkley a little bit, I know that's a scary area. That's a scary statement to make. To back up Brinkley a little bit, at the time that they did get a divorce, it was, if I recall correctly from what you had stated before, correct me if I'm wrong, they both openly, actively hated each other and completely disliked each other.
Oh, 100%.
So like it was mutual on top of mutual before it got to the level of disrespect that Brinkley's like, go fuck yourself. She was also at that time being like, go fuck yourself. Like neither one of them liked each other. You know, if I recall correctly.
No, you're right. You're right. They didn't. And they, forever hated each other.
I'm not projecting about my ex-partners, Joey. Okay, just calm down.
We'll never talk about this. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Yeah. Well, Fishbine did also try to chase down James Crawford, Brinkley's old running mate, and he found him.
Oh.
We found him in jail, of course, for just a small little crime. He was only in there for a couple of months. I mean, I think he was in there for like 5 years. Small for
handful
him.
of 100 parking tickets. Everyone's
exactly.
got them.
Well, he basically said, in exchange for springing Crawford from jail, Crawford would supply damaging information on Brinkley, to which he did. He gave some old information of like, look what we did when we were running around. We stole money from people. Use that for him to bring him down, basically, in this Kansas election. Unfortunately for James Crawford, he was not sprung from jail. He was only sent some candy and a box of cigars.
Oh, that's some bullshit.
Yeah, he kind of got duped on that one. And there was another part where they actually went back again to James Crawford and were like, hey, like we want to help you out of this jam. I think he was out of jail at that time. And they're like, we want to help you out of this jam. And he said, nah, I'm not helping you anymore. I was promised to get sprung from jail and nobody helped me. Screw you. And left him. And I was like, all right, well, I guess he's learning.
Yeah.
Now, remember when I said that Brinkley wanted a bulletproof vest? And that was in the style of Al Capone, like we talked about. Right? You remember?
This is how you know that something's about to happen with us as a podcast when I reach out to you, Joey, and I'm like, hey, man, I need a bulletproof vest.
You were very close to saying that earlier, though.
There's a reason why we weren't recording at the time.
Oh, okay. Well, it makes sense. You never got that bulletproof vest, so no big deal.
Shh. Definitely didn't.
No, not at all.
Definitely didn't.
Gil, you're looking a little husky over there. A little full.
Been working out.
No, yeah. Working out. Yeah.
I've been having a lot of plates. That's a bulletproof vest joke.
Lifting a lot of plates.
And nobody got that. Nobody got it. I'll be over here.
It's funny that I'm the one that texts you and I'm just like, hey, dude, I'm at the gym. And you're like, oh, lift some cats. I don't know. Just something.
No, but it was funny today when I didn't know what the fuck to say when you were like at the gym and I was trying to tell you like have a good day. I was like, yeah, pump iron, bro. And I was like, I don't really know what the fuck people say at the gym. And you were like, mostly it's random noises, silence, and motivational music. And I was like, so it's literally just my house with a microphone?
100%. Just a little less cat noises. Just a little less meows. A tiny bit less. Not that much more.
Slightly less.
Yeah,
it depends if it's warm and the window's open. It really depends.
Yeah. Well, the reason that he decided it was necessary to get a bulletproof vest was this. In the years during his election, the AMA had acquired a rather violent reputation. Well, because of one incident. Ironic, right?
Is this the definition of ironic? I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
The American Medical Association acquired a violent reputation.
Dude, it's only the 1920s, 1930s. Psst. We never solved stuff with violence.
This was at the same time that the Postmaster General could just fucking beat your ass.
He just shoot you. Yep.
Yeah, he'll just fucking shoot your ass. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, in Muscatine, Iowa, at I'm going to say in quotations, cancer clinic created by a man named Norman G. Baker, there would be an incident that all the other quack doctors would hear about. And Norman G. Baker was a huge name in quack doctors at this point. So 3 armed men drove up and parked outside the clinic. They then hid behind hedgerows and then started opening fire on the clinic as Baker and his assistant were downstairs. Baker himself had been very uneasy the past few days before this because Morris Fishbine in the newspaper had called Baker a ghoul. Very hefty words. Nobody in the clinic was injured, but one of the armed men was injured when Baker, who, because he knew that this stuff was probably going to happen, had his own pistol strapped to his side, took it out, and started firing back at the armed men shooting into this. And so one of them got injured, and they were just like, ow! They just heard ow from the bushes. And then he saw the other 2 men dragging this guy back into the car and then drove away.
Son of a bitch! No, God damn it, my asshole! No, not my hip, it went into my asshole!
Literally, that's how it happened. And they dragged him, put him in the car, and drove away.
What year was this again? I missed that.
It was about 1931, 1932.
I kind of love it. I'm not gonna lie. Back when you could get into bar fights and it was just like, and y'all went and got drinks the next night and you were best friends, and back when you could get in just full armed shootouts, gang on gang, and everybody stopped because somebody got hit in the butt. Basically,
yep.
Everybody calm down. Somebody actually got hit.
Yeah. Well, it's true, yeah. It reminds me of the Trailer Park Boys when Ricky gets shot, or like somebody gets shot, and he's like, "Hey, quiet! Come on, guys! Someone got hit over here. Someone's hurt over here.
Time out, asshole!"
Yeah,
that's true. You actually hit me.
Yeah, well, it's like they're just shooting,
different time
because guns are so inaccurate for a lot of those times. Well, this would be the whole incident that put Brinkley uneasy. And he viewed it as the AMA wasn't just writing articles, but now they were starting to send out hit squads. And like we said earlier, Brinkley was also sitting out his own hit squads on journalists and stuff like that. So obviously he's like, someone's going to do it to me. That's just the normal part of the time, you know? It's what we do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, it wasn't just the constant needles in the side from Fishbine that was wrecking Brinkley. It was other doctors, too. Another quack doctor named James Middlebrook moved to Del Rio, Texas, while Brinkley was in Texas at his second hospital, starting to bring up all this. He was making bukus of money. And James Middlebrook started offering knockoff surgeries, the same exact surgery that Brinkley was doing, for 1/5 of the price.
Listen here, middle butt. You can't come in here and get into my fucking surgery scheme. This is my scheme. This ain't your scheme. This is my scheme. Now you go on down to Mexico like an honest American. And you start there like I did.
Exactly. That's true. And what's funny is James Middlebrook was making enough money that he was advertising on the rival Border Blaster radio stations. Well, he was advertising on the rival Border Blaster stations so that he could go against him. Mm-hmm. So he was starting to make bukus of bucks, putting a dent into that empire.
Damn, this is like the Nature's Choice of vitamin wars. This is cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it pretty much put Del Rio into a small war. No joke.
Not the first time. Won't be the last.
Remember how I said that Happy Harry, the transportation guy, was picking up people from the train station, right?
Yes. How could I forget?
Business was so good that he had transportation. Well, Middlebrook would send out scalpers, is what I like to call them. You could also call them like thugs, basically. These kind of thugs that he would hire to grab patients that were going to Brinkley's hospital and take them to Middlebrook's hospital. So he's basically kidnapping these people, and these people didn't really know.
It's like a bait and switch, but it's a bait and switch and bait
and
switch. This is crazy.
Yeah.
All in the name of goat balls. People keep this in mind. This is
all
all in the name of fucking goat balls.
It's true. I mean, if you break it down to it, it's all in the name of money, but the goat balls make the money, so.
You know what I'm saying? People don't sell Coke for the Coke. Sell for the cash. All right? Just saying. But honestly,
Middlebrook,
this is a very... I'm stepping in here,
do it.
Stepping in. Look, a very important lesson that my 6th grade teacher pointed out to me a long time ago. I try to never forget this. It hasn't worked out for me in my life. Maybe someday it will. The people who made money during the gold rush were not the miners. They were the ones that sold the pans and the pickaxes. All right?
Yep.
So when there's a goat rush, it is not the doctors doing the surgeries. It's the people selling the penis, ovaries, and goat balls. I didn't have a fancy rhyme ending on that one, but I was trying to, and I couldn't think of it in time. I couldn't think of it in time. It didn't come quick enough. Yeah. But the point is, sell the goat balls. Think about it.
That's
I didn't.
BCR business advice. That was our business corner. Well, speaking of the business part of it, Brinkley would also post thugs at the train station so that none of his people were getting kidnapped. And while
this is the oddest, most intimidating train station in the world.
It is. And so both of these guys had train stations.
People welcoming you.
Yeah.
Hello, are you here for ball surgery? Yes. Great. Get in our...
Exactly.
Why honestly, are they so mad?
Both of them had thugs on the train station platform. So they're just waiting for these people. And of course, what's going to happen when you have people that are there angry with guns and knives is there's going to be violence ensuing. So there was knives flashed, guns pulled out, there was shots fired, people were getting injured. Like, it was hurting the town. The town that Brinkley had built. Which is, I will say, Brinkley had built. Yep.
Yeah.
Because Brinkley thought that, this is my town. I brought so much life to us. Surely, they will kick out this Middlebrook imposter. But you know what? Town didn't do anything. Town did literally nothing. And let the war happen. Let them take people. And Brinkley decided... Just like he decided in Milford, Kansas, I'm going to move. It's time for me to move again. I'm tired of this town. They're not supporting me. I'll keep my house. I'm going to make my main stage. I'm going to Little Rock, Arkansas. And he opened up a small hospital there.
Okay.
The doors of this hospital opened on January 28th, 1938. And 2 weeks later, literally 2 weeks later after this, Brinkley was about to be exposed on the national stage as the charlatan he was.
Oh, shit.
In early February of 1938, our good old buddy Morris Fishbine published The Modern Medical Charlatans, a 2-part article that hit every single newsstand in the United States. And this, in bold and large letters, said that John Brinkley, in his full name, John R. Brinkley, was a medical quack. It laid out his professional record of never having a real medical education his license paid for by extraordinary manipulation of political appointees, and that he had a continuous astuteness for shaking shekels from the pocket of credulous Americans.
Scathing.
Scorching and scathing. He laid everything out for everybody. The article even laid out postal crimes in it, saying,
Ooh.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
I know.
Whoa, my man. Whoa. Okay, Joey, did you take your blood pressure meds today? Are you ready for this?
I didn't. I'm not ready for this. I wasn't ready when I heard it.
Look, everybody, we need to take a break. Joey needs to take his medication, needs to meditate for a while. This is not going to be okay. This is not going to be okay. How much salt did you have today? This is about to be intense.
A lot of garlic salt, though. I had some pasta, but it should be fine. Well,
respect.
Yeah. Well, the postal crimes, right? It said most of Brinkley's business seems to come by the way of mail. All the pamphlets that he was sending out, all the things in the mail that he was quoting. And it is this time for the Post Office Department to do something in regard to the use of the United States mail by John R. Brinkley in his defrauding of the public. He brought up basically trying to get them to throw some charges at him because they're like, come on. Like, you do your part. Somebody. Like, where's Frank Oldfield when I need him?
And he never returned to kill a mockingbird when he was in middle school. He's just like everything.
He did a Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah, this is literally this is like him throwing out like a photo of his like Ozempic prescription. Like this is
like, literally.
It's like, wow, I mean, okay. Like, like,
what was that gonna do? That's fine. No big deal.
Yeah.
It's just the pettiness of it.
Well, yeah. Which
Funnily enough, he did actually get brought up on mail fraud charges. Not once, but twice actually, which is kind of funny. Twice. And we'll get into the second time later. But on these specific mail fraud charges, he used his friends, John Brinkley, in high places at the time. Charles Curtis, who was the vice president of the United States, talked to Brinkley and swept all of these charges under the rug. He basically went to the Secretary of State and he went to the undersecretaries and was like, hey, I know this guy in Kansas. Let it lie. Like, we're good. We're good. The reason
do you realize he got me elected vice president in Finland? Okay, we got to take care of this dude.
Well, there was an interesting story about that. Charles Curtis was like he was FDR's vice president, right? So everyone knows FDR was the president for like 100 years. But Charles Curtis wanted to get the presidency. But at this time, he kind of felt like, okay, I'm not gonna win. Like, I'm never gonna be president of the United States.
He just elected him for how many times? 3 times? He's going for 4. I give up.
Yeah, didn't he go for 4? Yeah, didn't he go for 4? He did get 4, I think right?
He did.
Yeah, because he was in 12 years.
I know he got 3.
I think he was 12 years.
Yeah. Well,
11. Because he died in office. Yeah, he died in his last year. No, he died right after he got elected. He died right after he got elected. That was what happened. Not too far after he got elected.
He
died.
You couldn't get rid of him. Yeah.
Well, the reason why Charles Curtis felt like he owed him this is because Charles Curtis helped get in that spot by John Brinkley. And he felt like, oh, this is a good guy. He literally was like, John R. Brinkley's a good guy, and I'm gonna help him out. I'm gonna help him because the people love him. This is
unfair.
People love him. Yeah, this is unfair. He's being unfairly maligned by the AMA,
Me and my wife would have never had kids without John R. Brinkley. I love you too, sons.
Yeah, and that's true. He didn't have great balls, but he was very much. I mean, he had to support him because John R. Brinkley supported him to get to the place he was. That was kind of his thing. Well,
yeah.
Now this well thought out and incredibly written 2-part article that was written by Morris Fishbine had one single purpose. It wasn't just to malign him, because he liked that, actually. He did that. He was happy to do that. And he felt like he should. He felt like nobody else is doing it, so I'm going to do it. It wasn't just to expose him either, but it was to get Brinkley into a final showdown in court. He wanted to get Brinkley to sue him, which is a weird thing to say.
Well, no, he was pushing him to a checkmate. That's what he was trying to do.
Yep.
He was just like, no, I'm not trying to just chase pawns around the board, motherfucker. I'm going for your king. And so I'm going to set some shit. This makes sense. This is good moves. This is a good strategy right here.
Fishbine was a genius. He actually, what's funny is Fishbine actually did get sued for libel by Brinkley before. It was about 4 or 5 years earlier. He sued him, but it didn't go anywhere, and Fishbine knew it wasn't going anywhere.
That's exactly right. Because if he could piss him off to the point that he would sue for libel, it would create enough traction, enough steam, that when he proved it wasn't libel, 90% of his publicity costs were covered just in coverage of this case. Like, it was like so much attention and shit and so much litigation got tied to it that by the time it was like, oh, it's not libel, that's a huge fucking hit. Like, that's like a cutthroat move, baby. Like, this is, again, he's going in for that checkmate. I see it, bro. I see it. This is
God damn it, Gil, you're just reading the minds of my script writing.
I just opened up the fish binder and I could see what was happening. This is good.
Exactly. Just a few months after that article went out, Brinkley decided time to go for libel. He sued Fishbine and the AMA for libel, and just to add a little bit extra, he was like, I want $250,000 in damages too.
And he's a bitch.
Yep. Well, at this time, it was like the Muhammad Ali versus Joe Frazier, the Rumble in the hospital, the Thrilla in Del Rio. And I know that both of those weren't fights between Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier. First one was the Rumble in the Jungle versus
in the Jungle.
Yeah, that was versus
Thrilla in Manila.
George Foreman. Yep, George Foreman. Second one was Joe Frazier. The second one was
awkward fighting a small stovetop grill, but or tabletop grill, but but all the fat just comes off. Did they still make George Foreman's, or did they burn down too many houses?
I think they still make them. I think so.
That's cool. They were like they're like the pancakes of air fryers, if that makes sense. I think it does. I'm going with that.
Yeah, sure. Well, what is funny is that throughout the years of their square-offs in the public arena or even behind the scenes, both Fishbine and Brinkley had become so much alike. They both worked harder than anyone else. They both grew egos the size of Texas, because they really did both. Even Fishbine, who is a good person in this story, his ego grew, and their personalities stayed who they were, but his egos grew. Well, now, their entrance to the trial could not have said enough about who they were as a person. Just like I said earlier with the way that they handled themselves when they met. Well, John R. Brinkley sat in the passenger seat of his favorite car, his fire red Cadillac with Dr. Brinkley embossed on it, and with his wife Minerva driving, and a train of cars following behind him to get to the courthouse. He made a show of it.
Tackiest shit. This is the tackiest shit, though. Like, this is gaudy before, I think, what year was this? 30s?
This is 1938.
This is gaudy, I want to say around the time of Gaudi. I think Gaudi was in the 30s. Might have been the 20s. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Point is, this is gaudy before gaudy became a term. All right?
That's true. That's true.
Well, goddamn.
His opposite, Morris Fishbine, at this time was having a small solitary breakfast at the Roswell Hotel.
Drove homeless nun to church.
It was close, but The Roswell Hotel, which was the former site of Dr. Brinkley's hospital in Del Rio, Texas.
Oh my God. This is, I hate to say it, he's becoming Kendrick Lamar like right now.
Mm-hmm.
God damn it.
I
know
will
you,
say, though,
you referenced that earlier.
Yeah, he didn't know in quotations that this was his hotel, and I will
A
kind of
motherfucker that
support
researched this much didn't
Yeah.
know.
No, he
I
knew.
don't
He's
believe
kind
you.
of a
I
little
don't
smirk on his
believe you at
face.
all. He hunted down his ex-wife and scheduled her to go to every future event a couple days later and set everything up for all the speaking engagements, and he didn't know one of his former
knew.
headquarters. Yeah,
He
come on,
knew.
dude.
He
Yeah,
knew.
come on. Yeah.
Well, the reason I bring that he might not have known, and he probably did, but when he was sitting there having breakfast, when the waitress took away the plates, she asked Fishbine how it felt to be Dr. Brinkley's guest. Yeah, she knew who he was too, which is kind of funny. She knew who Fishbine was, so like this is like a yep, that's Brinkley throwing a little you like
Ooh.
those? You're my guest.
Hey, I saw some
Well,
sun. Thought I'd throw a little shade. Like,
well, Fishbine looked confused, obviously, because he's just like, what? And that might have been more confusion on just like, why are you asking me this? Well, she continued with, Brinkley still owns part of this hotel, and that grapefruit you just ate, yeah, that came from his orchard. It's like, damn, they are both throwing shade at each other this whole time.
Damn, the level of pettiness here. I love this shit.
Well,
I'm here for it.
Yeah. And as soon as she said that, he just slowly packed up his suitcase, his briefcase, and he went, time to go to the courthouse. And got in his,
if
his small little
Jesus
car.
was this petty, you know what I'm saying, towards Judas, things might have worked out differently. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I know it's controversial, but I'm just saying. Should have thought about it.
That's true. Well, as the trial began, Fishbane had 5 lawyers surrounding him. 5 lawyers, right?
Damn.
Brinkley, on the other hand, had a small father-son lawyer team that he had hired that were also local. And I want to say that this juxtaposition of this is very weird. And it's funny to me because Brinkley arrived like a celebrity. All these people. He even had like a famous fortune teller. No joke. A famous fortune teller in the car behind him, giving him like updates on how his day was going to go. Being like, oh, when was that person's birthday? Oh, don't worry. They're going to lose. Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
And then in the trial, Brinkley was acting more of kind of like the folk hero, flipping that. And then Fishbine started out like the solitary, like smaller hero in the stories. He's like behind the scenes trying to help everybody. In the trial, he felt like an overbearing corporation. And I feel like the juxtaposition of these two people in the trial and outside is just so weird.
Ooh, I see it, dude. He played the optics so fucking
Brinkley did, yeah.
well. He fucking played those optics. He went in there and he was just like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Your Magistrate. I can only afford this paper bag as a tie today. And he's like, it's okay, Mr. Brinkley. Are you sure, sir? I can work more for a tie to respect you. He came in like fucking Tiny Tim. He's like, all I could afford was this local, incredibly fucking locally raised, historically known, but never respected free-range lawyer and his free-range lawyer son, who were homeschooled under the laws that you dictated. This is all I could afford.
Yeah. No, and what's funny is
he's
his
running
optics
it
were
so
so
good.
good.
Dude. He's running it so good.
And Morris Fishbine's lawyer, his like lead lawyer in the case, looked over and he was like, damn it. He was like, he knew and looked at like his team of lawyers and was like,
Shit.
We shouldn't have had 5 lawyers. Yeah, he was like, we shouldn't have had 5 lawyers. Like, that's great optics. Like, he knew as soon as he got into the courthouse, he's like, damn it, we have these 5 overdressed lawyers and versus a mom and pop team. Well, and to start the trial, they brought some of the locals up to vouch that, just like a normal trial, they vouched that they had seen the articles on the newsstands and such. And then they brought up Brinkley's assistants to give him an air of medical expertise, which they did.
Yeah.
The medical experts were traipsed up and down the witness stand. And, to be fair, I don't think that there has been a trial that has shown so many penises or vaginas or any sexual reproductive system in the history of, courts. To be fair, I don't think there has been. Or as many goat balls.
Definitely as many goat balls. 100%. I will give you that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of what was it, like Gawker.com that got taken down by Hulk Hogan for Hulk Hogan's sex tape. It was a huge scandal. I think it was Gawker. I want to say it was Gawker. Doesn't matter.
No, it was Hulker.
Yeah, this is up there. Became Hulker afterwards. No, I mean, that was like a huge hit on like free speech in this country, because it was like, how far is the line? Where's the line at? And that really moved the fence post a certain direction. It's an important case, but yeah, nothing has. Honestly, Pornhub hasn't seen this many dicks and balls or goat balls as this case has.
100%. There were so many diagrams that had to be explained and walked through so people could go through the surgery, and to show how
Joey's mind over the past 3 weeks.
Complex it was. Yes, my mind is just like this trial. Well,
so many diagrams you had to see.
So many diagrams. And even the end of the freaking audiobook went into describing the freaking trial, went into detail of the surgeries. And I'm like, I thought I'd gotten past this. I thought that the trial was just going to be, okay, here's what happened in the trial. But then it just went into each assistant describing how the fucking procedure went. And I was like, man, you couldn't leave it alone.
You could have just had a vasectomy when it came to this part of the story.
I could have had an infosectomy and just take it out of my brain. Hopefully that's what's going to happen after we get done with this series. But it's a great deal of history. So the first day after the trial, Brinkley went straight to his radio station. He literally went and started talking about the trial, which is like, you don't really do that there, buddy. That. Yeah, you don't do that. Yeah. And you know who's listening? The judge, the jury, because there's no sequester once they get out of that box. Like, once you leave
Finland,
Lithuania, Finland, Russia,
all of Nova Scotia, by the way, Russia, Northern Africa.
They're listening. They're all lilistening.
Three quarters of the planet.
Yeah,
because it came on right after French lessons.
It did. It actually did. Because he learned how to cuss in French. He was just cussing in French. Yeah. Well, he had talked about the trial and said, I just thought of a new contest. $500 to the person who best completes this phrase in 20 words or less. In quotations.
Oh, my God.
I'd consider Dr. Brinkley the world's foremost prostate specialist because ... And you send it in to him. Basically him trying to get all these reviews so he could send them to the trial or bring these people, or go like, hey, $500 to you. Come on, let's get you on trial. We're going to get you up there. You know, he's bringing people into this.
He's trying to pump it up. Gotcha.
He's getting the heat going. Well, then he ended that radio broadcast with, quote, if Dr. Fishbine goes to heaven, I want to go the other way, end quote. Through shade.
He's got the sicker burns, I'm going to be honest.
He does. Brinkley has some burns.
He's some fucking sick burns.
We'll get to some
hey, man, if he's going to heaven.
Later.
Fishbinder coming in for the win. I'm going to keep calling him Fishbinder. Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. On the third day of the trial, the judge, citing Fry versus the U.S., which was a prior ruling in the U.S. court system, said that 20 witnesses testifying for Brinkley could not testify. The reason he said that they could not testify is because they were just people who received the surgeries. They were basically like his Google reviews. And the judge himself said, like, I don't want this to become a circus. There's going to be, like, both sides are just going to, it's true. Both sides are just going to bring up 100,000 witnesses being like, his surgeries affected me badly. His surgeries affected me so good. Look,
my balls are bad. Yeah.
And he was like, that's not going to help this trial. The judge was actually pretty like, he was pretty on it in this case. He was like, oh, we're going to stop this before it happens. And so 20 of the witnesses that were going to testify on Brinkley literally solemnly just walked out of the courtroom. And he's like, nice.
Waddled out holding their balls out.
Doom, 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 doom. Yeah. And it was a smart move because, you know, he said the case could last forever. And he's like, I want to get to the facts. And those are just going to be opinions. So it was smart. Well, now the time came for Fishbine himself to get up on the witness stand. And Brinkley's lawyers took him sentence by sentence through the article he had written. It's pretty crazy. Like literally 2-part huge article that he had written. They took him line by line. Dang. They asked him where did he get the words and the evidence for such remarks. Fishbine said, quote, I took some of it from his own biography, A Life of Man, some from listening to him on the radio, and some from his own patients. God. It was like, he's just like, damn, like literally Brinkley did this to himself.
I quoted you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He then went on to admonish Brinkley for not sending his surgeries and his own cure-alls in for review with the AMA, then saying that no real doctor he knew was pulling in excess over $1 million a year. The one thing that he said that hit the nail on the head is a quote that I love this. He said, quote, that's not medical practice. That's big business, quote.
That stands up. That stands the test of time.
Mm-hmm.
That stands the test of time. You're gonna get the BCR clap for that one. That was solid.
Mm-hmm.
That was solid.
It was.
I am for solid medical shit, and this guy is supporting solid medical shit.
Yep.
And just kind of like Brinkley.
I know he again. This is not an unknown thing because Brinkley was well liked. Like the whole town loved him. Most of the United States loved him. You know, and Fishbine kind of wasn't on. Again, this just hits so much. Fishbine was kind of an unlikable guy because he was the one
100%.
that was saying like, "Don't do this, don't do that stuff because it's bad for you."
Yeah,
and it happens over and over and over and over again. You know, just like sometimes the bad guy, sometimes the guy who looks bad. You know, this is going to sound weird to say. Sometimes the guy that is not well liked, let's say it like that, could be the one who's actually helping you. You know, it's like that friend that like tells you the things you don't want to hear and you get mad at him, you know, and you're just like, oh, well, he was fucking right. And the guy that's been literally like, nah, you're the greatest, you're awesome, was the one that was trying to take advantage of you. You know?
Yes.
Yes. Well, that was his actual last comment on the stand. And I was like, he dropped the mic after that. Because they said, basically, we're done. Yeah, we don't need to talk to you anymore. Because he was meticulous, too. What was so crazy is they, like, tried to rile him up. And, you know, we talked about earlier his personality. He wasn't the riled up character. He just pretty even flow the whole time. And so they couldn't rile him up. Made it easy. Well, obviously, it was time for John R. Brinkley to take the stand. And unlike his radio commission trial, he didn't do as well. He wasn't as smooth. He wasn't as great as he was. Well,
damn.
Brinkley laid it on thick at the beginning. He talked about, just like you said earlier, He talked about, poor me. This trial is making me lose my income. I
Got
like
the vapors.
I'm losing on my income. And he, funnily enough, he changed the $1 million that he was making, the millions of dollars he was making, to thousands of dollars to seem more relatable. So he wasn't like, I'm losing my millions. He was like, no, this trial has caused me to lose the thousands of dollars that I was helping my family. You know, he put it down for the common man.
Yeah, what's that? Joel? Is it Joel Osteen?
Joel
Hold
Osteen,
on, we're
yeah.
pausing the show.
Joel Osteen.
Osteen?
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. You know I remember faces better than names. Yeah.
I think it's
Joel Osteen. Whatever the fuck his name is. Osteen.
Did he do this as well?
No, okay, so here's the difference. See, like when Alex Jones got nipped, like, you know what I'm saying? When he got pinched,
AJ,
he was like, oh my God. Like he eventually, he went from strongman to folding completely on his character. This is what Brinkley is doing. This goes back to BCR business advice, right? If you're going to be a good charlatan, this is how you do it. But part of the show is we are 100% trying to educate you as up and coming criminals. There you go. We said it live on air, and we'll play it back in the recording. We're trying to make you better criminals. So here's the fucking deal. Don't be rich and come into a court case acting poor. Huge fucking weakness. What you do is you come in rich, but then flip the script to say, I give so much of my money away. I support so much of my community. I help so many people with this. So if you hurt me, you hurt an entire city. That's what Joel Osteen did when he gets fucking pinched for the millions of fucking dollars that he completely fucking embezzles.
He showers in,
Yeah, where like Alex Jones tried to play in a character, but the point is like he let his ego suck everything up, and he just took it all. It was like all or nothing. So like he was allowed to be unrelatable to the jury or to the court and then taken down. But if you are able to tell the court that 90% of the people that they know work for the person that you will fuck over with your decision, you are going to be scared to take them down. This is very honest criminal advice from the Black Cat
BCR.
Report. Honestly, this is where he's fucking up. I'm telling you, Joey, this is where he's fucking up. Is you can't. Don't comment. Like he could have came in with the aesthetic, because that would have been great at the time. They didn't have video. You know what I'm saying? So all the cameras and shit, it would have looked great on him. And then the story would have been like he came in and said, you know, I'm just doing my best. I put all my money towards the town. Towards throwing turkeys off the roof. You know, somebody has to pay for the spinal surgeries of all those people hit by turkeys last year. You know, those goat spinal surgeries.
But that was in Milford, but he was probably doing the same in Del Rio too. He was doing
fuck it. He's throwing frozen turkeys everywhere at this point. But yeah, sorry. That's my con artist advice. You know,
and that's
con
true.
corner.
That he did kind of come in at the wrong way. At this time in the trial, it was still 50-50 though. It was still 50-50 on who was going to win, because like he's still a fucking big name in Del Rio, Texas. Most of these people, and I want to laugh at the point of somebody asking, do they know who John Brinkley is, to the jury when they're trying to weed out the people in the jury. And it's like, literally, I was just on his lawn watching an air show last week. You know, like, like something like, I don't know.
My bar mitzvah was in his front yard.
I imagine the biggest question, just like when I was, you know, chosen for the jury, was like, would you let that affect your judgment? And I think that's such a great question, because you might know these people, but if it doesn't affect, and you can literally lay it out flat of like, no, we're just got to deal with the law, then you know, then you deal with the law. You can be a bipartisan. You can be a non-partisan, I guess I would say.
Yeah,
non-partisan, objective viewer. And
non-bias. Yeah.
Non-bias, yeah. Well,
you got to
Brinkley
come in with I own everybody, and if you fuck me over, you fuck everybody over. Just saying.
Yeah. I mean,
this is how you con.
He didn't want to con too much. I think he was getting old too. I mean, he wasn't even that old, but well, Brinkley went into detail about the goat gland surgery as well, just like I was saying earlier. The assistants did too, and he went into great detail because they asked him about it. You know, they're just like, "Tell us about the goat gland surgery." Correct. Mm-hmm. And we'll reveal something about this in a minute that might be a little fun for everybody. Yeah. He even went all the way back to his beginnings, and his first surgery was Stitchworth, the first goat gland transplant. Yep. He even brought up a new story that happened in that little time. The Stitchworths brought in one of their other relatives who was in the insane asylum in Nebraska because, and I quote, this is what they said, he was in the insane asylum because he was a masturbator.
Who amongst us hasn't spent a weekend or 3 in the local sanitarium for just such a reason? Let he who is without semen be the first. The first cum shot. That's what I always say.
That's what you're. I've heard you say that a few times.
And we will get that splattered across the shirt.
Yes. Across shirt that you can wash in the wash. It's machine washable. Actually, it's hand wash only. It's hand wash only.
And it will always be slightly crusty.
Yep. Well,
is it a sock stuck to the back of your shirt? Anyways.
Well, that masturbator apparently, and I say that in maybe the dearest of terms, apparently became a manager of one of the biggest banks in Kansas City, so Brinkley testified. And I want to say that because before he was released from the sanitarium, and I know that sounds funny when I said that masturbator, but supposedly once he got the surgery, he healed in some sort of way. I don't know how Brinkley described his healing process.
He went from 2 major problems to 1 when all of a sudden he stopped caring about masturbation.
Exactly. Yeah. And he became a manager of the biggest banks in Kansas City. I think that was a little bit of plug that Brinkley was like, "Hey, you should hire this guy." Yep. Well, throughout the questioning after this, they painted Brinkley as a smug and rich asshole. Easy to do. It was real easy. Yep. The defense was like, paint him as this. Look at him. Look at the money he's making. And he was dressed pretty well too. So Brinkley was dressed well and looked the part of it. He also, they described his demeanor, right? They described Brinkley's demeanor in it, and he had a toothpick. And this was real. He had a toothpick the whole time, and slowly he would just sit there, and while the trial was going on, while he was watching, he's just kind of staring off into space, kind of just looking around, picking his teeth, picking his ear, stuff like that. He wasn't even caring about this trial. And it showed him as an affluent, arrogant person. And so even with like you were saying before, even with those 5 lawyers on Fishbine's side, they were still able to paint him as the corporatized, greedy magnet, and Fishbine as this well-educated orator, which is a weird way to say it. And even Fishbine himself was really good on the witness stand. He crushed it. He gave very simple answers, succinct, and like we had said last time, he pointed it out. He's not a fucking medical practice person. He's not a fucking doctor. He's a business. And there's a difference. Yeah. And so it was easy to do. Well, one of the biggest things that broke open the case, they asked Brinkley, like I said earlier, to go through his whole operation and if there was any deviation in each of the surgeries, if they were an experimental part of the surgery or just a normal process. That's very important too. And he did do that in great detail. Now, I want to get into the last exchange in the court case because it seemed like this was the end of the case and it finally tipped the hand to the winner. And this is between the lawyer and Brinkley on the stand, right? The lawyer. Explain to us, how do you make that little testicle of a little... How old will the goats ordinarily? They're about 3 weeks. That little testicle of a young goat you claim that lived and grew after you implanted it in a human testicle? Some of them seemed to grow and would enlarge, and the others, the majority of them, went through a process of absorption. Absorption? Yes, sir. They were gradually absorbed. You mean to say that little thing lived and was part of the human testicle and was living there after you put it in there? No, sir. I don't conceive of it as part of the human testicle. Lawyer, you don't claim you connected up the nerves or any blood vessels? Oh, Lord, no. You just took this little thing separate and put it in that slit in the testicle and sewed it up. Yes, sir. This is huge, and I don't know if you caught this, because you caught it, I bet. This in itself was the complete opposite of what he had claimed for more than 20 years. The testicles weren't grafted. They were pretty much just dumped into the ball sack. He was caught in a lie. And he even had said it at the beginning of the trial, the opposite of what he just said now. Whether it was like just freaking getting tired, end of the trial wooziness, he slipped.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know what's funny out there is like lawyers speak in like parts of trials it can be so boring, but in some little tiny moments that can flip a case. It also,
that's the significance. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It also didn't help that he talked about his injections that he sent people home with afterwards. So I don't remember if I think I did talk about it at the end of the year, like during the year, right after you had your surgery. He would send you home with 12 little like vials, right? Little vials of this purple watery liquid. I might not have said it. I might have. I think I said it in the
I don't think you ever talked about this. Yeah.
Maybe
Break
in
it
the
down.
first episode. Yeah. So at the end of your surgery, if I'll bring it up now, but at the end of his surgery, you had to wait a year. I did say it in the second one. You had to wait in a year before you could like do any kind of thing. You know, you had to wait a year to get your tubes uncut or whatever he was doing at the time. Who the fuck knows?
No one knows.
Yeah.
He didn't know.
He actually didn't, which is funny. He gave them 12 vials of what he called like something to stimulate the white blood cells. And that was basically the idea of it, is that you can start healing. The white blood cells will start attacking the infections, which conveniently literally happened after he did the surgery on you. So go figure. But it was 12 vials. Where it's like, yeah. But he sent him home with 12 vials. He didn't just give them to him, though. He made them pay $100 extra. And so remember when he stood at the doorway and made that woman lie on the deathbed, and he held the gun to her brothers? I said it in the second episode, to get the $100. That's what those were for. And he made them pay for him and was like, these are going to help you heal. Well, the AMA for so long tried to get vials and tried to get Brinkley to send them those vials so they could check him and be like, these are magical, like these are magic, like fixed for fucking everything. Like they're gonna fix so much stuff. If they're a magical cure, why didn't you send it to us? Just like Dr. Fishbine had said in the earlier part of the trial, why didn't you send us stuff to like, we could have been like, you're a genius. Well, they finally got a vial. The AMA finally got a vial a couple years later, and they found out in their tests of it that it was just water and the tiniest, like literally, I think they said, comparing it the tiniest bit of purple dye, like indigo dye.
Kind of, if you hold it up to the light, I think I see a color. That's what was happening here.
Mm-hmm. And what's even worse is after he had said that,
There's something
he
worse.
went through the whole rant. Yeah. He admitted that he didn't know what the vials actually did that he was selling for $100. Literally said out loud, he was like,
I don't know.
I don't know. I really don't know. And they're like, do you know what they did? He's like, I really don't know.
This was a fucking legal move because he already knew that he was fucking screwed at this point. I'm gonna guess with his team of fucking lawyers and shit. He knew that he was fucking screwed.
Mm-hmm.
And what was happening is he didn't know, because I bet you he was fucking scared when they pulled out this like piss bottle from the other side of Lake Michigan. And he's like, oh, fuck, there might be murder charges against me, or there might be this, or there might be that. Like his mind, I'm just going to guess here. His mind probably went fucking nuts with like potentials of repercussions.
Probably.
And it was better for him legally to say, I'm totally inadequate. I don't know what the fuck's going on. I didn't expect any of this to happen. I'm a complete charlatan. Than to take responsibility and say, it's supposed to do this. And then they could start trying to prove against him, well, you said that it did this and did this. It would be better to just say he was a fucking liar and was an idiot than to try to argue another case. Guarantee you. I guarantee you.
Yeah. What's funny is the funny thing you say that is like they brought into the trial his own biography, and they started reading him chapter names. The
That'll
biography
always get you.
Yeah, one of the names.
How I fucked over the AMA.
No joke.
Fuck
In the
Fishbinder. Seriously, I'll beat him in court. You ever beat off a fish? Watch next month as I beat off Fishbinder.
and what's funny is they read out the chapter titles to him. We're just like, so I do want to ask you, Dr. Brinkley, do you think you're the greatest surgeon in the world? And he's like, no, I don't think that. He's like, then why did it get written in your book?
Yep.
You know? And he's just like, well, he kept saying, I didn't write the book. I believe that the guy who wrote the book, the poet, believed he said that. I don't know where he got that. And then he was like,
you know how poets are.
Yeah. And then he was like, so you really think you can be like, there was a part in there when he was like about con men and about how you con people out of their money. No joke. And they read that to him and he was just like, well, I don't know where he would get that. Maybe he was just looking at my friend's life. And it was just like these little squirmy maneuvers. And that was way before he got caught off guard with the other stuff. But it was their little pricks to get him into this part, you know, just their little pinpricks to get him to this. Well, obviously, after that last part, they didn't need to do it anymore. They finished with like, all right, thank you. Defense rests. And so it was closing arguments time. And as much of the time, they don't record closing arguments, but they did save this small snippet from what one of Fishbine's attorney said. He said, quote, I want to win that $500 prize that Dr. Brinkley's offering on the radio, but I'll make a change in the sentence. The sentence I'm offering the contest is this. Dr. Brinkley is the foremost money-making surgeon in the world because he had sense enough to know the weaknesses of human nature and gall enough to make $1 million a year out of it. Drop the quote, left. Well, at the end of the trial, the judge went into listing all of the failures of John Brinkley, him losing his medical license, his radio license, even quoted Brinkley's own book and said that anybody that Brinkley had libeled himself better than Fishbine ever could. Dr. Fishbine won the trial so easily. And Brinkley was defined as a quack. And just like that, the greatest surgery that Brinkley could have done was to himself. He did a money vasectomy because the sharks started swirling. Brinkley had pretty much lost everything. He was losing money heavily because all of the other goat nut doctors started taking his business. And he kept spending his money with abandon. After the trial, throughout 1938 and 1939, civil lawsuits started coming in from his former patients. Even his business manager sued him for malpractice. It was like the sharks were circling.
Damn.
He was about $3 million in debt to civil lawsuits. And then came the real vultures. The IRS came to him for back taxes that he never paid. Because if we look in the trial, remember, he was saying he was only making thousands of dollars instead of millions. And so they started researching into all of what he had done. In 1940, he wasn't done. And he was still living. He had taken over. Is the funny thing. It's called the Diddy School for Mechanics.
No comment would be a comment. So
for sure. All right. Well, he claimed in his advertising, if you went to the Diddy School for Mechanics, that you wouldn't be drafted for the war because they were starting to draft in 1940.
You were too young. Yeah,
exactly. Well, the Better Business Bureau took him to court and found he had misappropriated money and then took that business away from him. He couldn't even buy a bucket, as he would say in basketball, at this point. Well, that's what you say. You can't even buy a bucket. I mean, you can't make a shot. Well, in early 1941, he filed for bankruptcy. He listed $300,000 in assets, and then only $300,000, right? And then claimed over $1 million in debts. He moved most of his money to Minerva, which was a smart move. And then because they were still going after her now, she had to claim bankruptcy too, because the creditors were swarming. And in mid-1941, Mexico and the U.S. mended their relationship finally and shut down XERA. And I wanted to say this because this is important. That's his radio station down there. Upon ransacking it, they started finding news broadcasts that were going all over the border that kind of started to favor Nazi Germany.
Oh, no. Is this why I shouldn't get a full frontal tattoo of him?
Yep. Because for some time, it was long rumored that he was sympathetic to the Nazis. And if I want to say it very clearly, he started going in some decently racist rants on Morris Fishbine because Morris Fishbine was Jewish. And a lot of people started saying that Brinkley was a member of the Aryan race and he loved Hitler.
I didn't see that coming with the fact that he is replacing people's balls with goat balls. And that he had a radio station in Mexico. Like, I thought, you know what I'm saying? Like, if he would have been, white, all right, kind of bullshit, he would have went to Canada, which would have been way the fuck closer, by the way, than going to Mexico. It's... I don't know. Oh, God, that's just, he went full-on Henry Ford with that shit. It's just kind of bruh.
There's a funny thing too.
Why you gotta be a horrible piece of shit,
Yeah, there's two things too that I also wanted to mention too. I didn't write it in the script, but I want to mention that he, in his swimming pool, when he came back from Berlin, and it was just after the Olympics. He appreciated the clean streets. He appreciated everything at that time. Hitler had just taken over and cleaned up all the streets from all the
the streets are clean.
Yeah. And he
There's
started...
no more of these pesky bagel shops. They're all gone. Okay, why do you want bread with a hole in the middle? I've always said that.
He very much loved Nazi Germany. And one of his quotes, he said that the Nazis understood the science of worship. Ooh.
No, they didn't. No, they fucking did.
That's what he said, though. That's what he
The
said.
Nazis, even the fucking SS and shit like that, 90% of them didn't even believe their own weird occult religion that Nazi Germany tried to like start up. Like the National Socialist Party tried to start its own fucked up weird religion because it outlawed Christianity and like every other fucking faith possible. 99% of the people who were just like, yeah, this is the dumbest shit I've ever heard of. Like they still celebrated Christmas and shit, you know, like I don't.
Yeah. The science of worship, meaning worshiping Hitler.
Propaganda. Goebbels
and
had
Hitler.
it going full swing at the time. Yeah.
And he looked at that more than anything. When he returned from Berlin as well, in his pool, he put in the like ceramic tiles, you know, that are around the pool, swastikas.
It's actually just a Buddhist Roman salute symbol.
Yeah. But no, he put those in.
The reason why I have Elon Musk doing Zig Heil is because it's actually a Roman salute symbol from the future. Which is why it has nothing to do with Nazis. Chill out, everybody. That's what actually
That's
happened.
What he was saying. Yeah, he was saying that.
100%. 100%.
He went full bore. And a lot of the parts in there, he went full, like, weirdly. He went full Christian, like full death and brimstone on the radio station. So, which makes sense because then that starts leading over to his, like, let's hate immigrants. And then he started fighting against Fishbine, who was Jewish.
Which is why we're going to Mexico.
Exactly, yeah. Well,
he is borderline a less endearing Kenny Powers in Eastbound and Down, just ending up in Mexico.
The worst kind.
Yes.
Well, I wanted to save this whole part to last because I wanted you guys to like him until
it worked.
You're like, oh shit, he actually is a Nazi and he supports their ideals in the end. Well, in 1941, November of 1941, he finally thought, everything was lost. He had a heart attack and was bedridden. While he was bedridden, the U.S. Postal Service finally brought charges against him, and a federal marshal showed up at his bedside and gave him his indictment, and to what would be insult to injury. One of the charges was that he had falsely claimed that John R. Brinkley was a great surgeon, scientist, and physician. He's basically saying your whole life's work is false.
Damn.
Nice. U.S. Postal Service, they got petty. A little late, but they got petty too. Minerva was also arrested for mail fraud. She's just as involved as he was, so there was no hiding her either. She was just as involved. The whole empire was collapsing. It's like the end of a movie when everyone starts getting their comeuppance finally, just when you thought they were going to skate away, just in the middle of his trial, when he had a little bit of the upper hand and he was like, oh no, that is liable. He was so close. And right before he died, Minerva and John sent, just because they still loved each other, love letters to each other. They weren't close at this time because she went to go take care of business stuff and try to get him out of the, basically
trying
get
to
him
keep
out
the
of
family out of prison.
Mail fraud. Yeah.
Busy with family shit.
She was busy. And sent right before he died, they sent love letters to each other, described their life and how much they loved one another. And basically, John was like, "Please take care of the kids. I don't have long for this world." And John R. Brinkley died on May 26, 1942, in San Antonio, just 1 year into the start of World War II. So we will never know if implanting goat balls into our troops would have made them super soldiers. Never know. John R. Brinkley died as one of the most famous people at the time. His life had taken him from simple little son of a rock farmer to one of the most famous surgeons of the time, getting invitations to the biggest parties in LA, owning 3 yachts, a mansion, a host of cars, finding a love of his life that would help build his empire with him, as well as help raise his son. But we cannot honestly forget the lives that this man ruined with his experimental surgery. thousands of people who were maimed and sometimes killed by the knife and mind of John Romulus Brinkley. He, of course, had his fall, but most people could not get the justice they deserved. Though he did do bad things, it can't be denied the profound effect he had on history and how much of what we see today happened yesterday. Well, we want to say thank you so much for listening to us. Oh, hi, Dada. We want to thank you for tuning in. And if you have not, sign up for our Patreon. It's free and cool. We have so much scheduled for you on Patreon. B3 going live on April 5th. Cup of Joey on April 7th. Live streams that you can catch us on here, too. And see all of our stupid mistakes, our silly jokes that don't make the episode, all the cool stuff. Gil, do you have anything to add?
A goddamn thing. Other than, if you have made it this far in the episode, whether you're watching the live premiere of this episode on the following Friday, which will be, I guess, the first Friday in April, on YouTube or somewhere else, here's the dealio. We have a set of 12-month gifts. That's fucking right. 12-month gifts of our Patreon for a paid tier, which we're just giving away for free to kind of help bolster numbers, to get folks in, to show folks that it's awesome. And because, frankly, we suck at being capitalists. So all you got to do, hit us up on Instagram, hit us up in the comments of this episode, wherever the fuck you're finding it.
Wherever you are.
And I'll send you a short link. I made a custom short link, and it'll, boom, hook you up like that with 12 months of our paid tier Patreon for free. That's all I got, bud.
All right. Well, we want to get into the thanks to our Patreon listeners. Like we do every episode, we want to give our little shout outs. So we want to thank Little Mystery, Bobby, Peak of the Mountain Productions, Tim, Max, Ian, Morgan, Dragon Paw, Miller's Monsters, Marissa, Leader of the Chicken Call, Rachel, Av, Jaden, Jackie, Lucas, Yellow Bear, Dwayne, Alyssa, Bree, Michael, Paranorm Girl Podcast, James, and always last but not fucking least,
Happy Kitty!
Yeah. We will be right back next week with another new episode of BCR, and we are excited because we'll be getting into a new topic. I can finally get balls off the brain, and Gil is ready for his time to shine. So for this week, we would like to say,
we'll see you all next week. We love you.
we do. Bye.
Bye.